You were never meant to consume spirituality. You were meant to become it. Somewhere along the way, humanity turned its deepest yearning into another form of entertainment. What was once sacred, a journey into silence, surrender, and self-discovery, became a spectacle of enlightenment, repackaged into motivational reels, podcasts, and courses promising instant transformation. You scroll through divine wisdom as if it were another playlist. Each teaching feels profound in the moment, yet slips away like sand between your fingers. The spiritual path, which once required stillness and courage, now competes with the very mechanisms of distraction. You're left mistaking stimulation for expansion, thinking that because you understand the words, you've lived their meaning. There is a reason you still feel stuck, even after consuming so much wisdom. The ego has learned to feed on spirituality. It loves the idea of awakening because it gets to stay in control while pretending it has evolved. It says, "You're growing," as you click on another video. It whispers, "You're becoming enlightened," as it quietly collects teachings like trophies. But enlightenment cannot be possessed. It dissolves the one who seeks to own it. The ego doesn't want awakening. It wants the image of awakening. And so, spirituality becomes performance, not transformation. You're left with a mind full of quotes, but a heart still untouched. When spirituality becomes entertainment, depth is replaced by novelty. The sacred art of contemplation, the space between knowing and being, is lost. Each new video promises revelation, but revelation without embodiment is illusion. You begin to crave more stimulation, mistaking emotional highs for spiritual insight. What was once a path to transcendence turns into a chase for the next aha moment. But truth doesn't reveal itself in excitement. It reveals itself in stillness, in repetition, in surrender. You can't binge watch your way into awakening. And yet, the heart still longs for something real. That quiet dissatisfaction you feel after every teaching ends, that emptiness, isn't failure. It's a call from the real within you, the one that can't be fulfilled through consumption. It's trying to remind you that spirituality isn't meant to entertain your mind. It's meant to dissolve it. Every video, every teaching, every guru you've listened to was only a mirror pointing you back to that realization. But when you stop at the mirror, you forget to look into your own eyes. So the question remains, not how much you've learned, but how deeply you've become. Enlightenment was never an external event waiting to happen. It's the uncovering of what's always been here. You cannot reach it by gathering more ideas. You reach it by letting go of everything that keeps you separate from it. When the seeker stops seeking, when the mind grows silent enough to hear its own origin, the entertainment ends and the real journey begins. You've been conditioned to think spiritual progress means learning more, but real growth means unlearning. After years of consuming teachings, you start to realize the irony. Your search for liberation has quietly turned into another form of captivity. The same mind that once chased material success now chases spiritual success. You've traded the pursuit of possessions for the pursuit of perceptions. Instead of cars and houses, you collect insights and terminologies, higher self, consciousness, non-duality. But the mechanism is the same, the grasping, the wanting, the endless reaching. You scroll through wisdom like it's merchandise, comparing teachings the way others compare brands. And while the ego celebrates every new concept it understands, the soul quietly waits for you to stop thinking and listen. Unlearning begins when you stop mistaking accumulation for awakening. True wisdom doesn't add weight to the mind, it empties it. You can know every sacred text by heart and still not touch the silence that reveals their meaning. That's because knowledge and realization are two different worlds. One belongs to the intellect, the other to being. As long as spirituality is something you know about, it remains entertainment, an intellectual game that stimulates thought but never transforms identity. You may feel inspired for a while, but inspiration fades, and what remains is the same restless search for more. The trap is subtle. You believe you're evolving, but you're only decorating the cage. The entertainment of spirituality thrives on this illusion. It feeds on curiosity without commitment, reflection without embodiment. You consume teachings in fragments, 5-minute clips, catchy affirmations, quotes stripped of context. The messages sound powerful, but without the soil of silence, they can't take root. Each teaching becomes another spark that briefly lights the darkness, but never long enough to reveal what's truly there. You start to confuse knowing about awakening with being awake. That's why the mind can quote enlightenment, but the heart still feels divided. Real growth begins not when you understand more, but when you stop clinging to what you think you understand. To unlearn is to dismantle every borrowed belief until only direct experience remains. It means letting teachings burn through illusion rather than decorate it. It means questioning even your most sacred conclusions until truth stands alone, silent, unshakable, beyond words. When you stop filling yourself with others' truths, your own voice emerges. That voice doesn't come from knowledge, but from awareness itself. It doesn't seek enlightenment. It is enlightenment remembering itself. And when you return to that space, spirituality stops being something you consume and becomes something you are. You can't heal what you refuse to face, and many have used spirituality as a clever way to avoid pain. After years of consuming comforting teachings, you start to notice a pattern. Most messages you absorb promise peace without discomfort, light without shadow, awakening without confrontation. They tell you to raise your vibration, stay positive, and detach from what hurts. It sounds beautiful, but beneath that polished surface lies a dangerous half-truth. When spirituality becomes entertainment, it begins to sell comfort instead of truth. And comfort, though appealing to the mind, often numbs the soul. You become skilled at talking about healing, yet terrified to feel it. The result is a generation of seekers fluent in spiritual language, but strangers to their own shadows. Spiritual bypassing is the symptom of this entertainment-driven spirituality. You watch videos about letting go, but you never sit long enough with what needs releasing. You repeat affirmations about love, yet skip the parts of yourself that feel unlovable. Pain becomes something to transcend rather than understand, and in that avoidance, your emotional wounds remain alive, hiding beneath layers of enlightenment-sounding phrases. The more you try to suppress pain in the name of being high vibrational, the more power it gains in silence. True healing doesn't happen through avoidance, it happens through integration, and integration begins where entertainment ends. You may even find yourself mistaking emotional numbness for spiritual progress. Because you no longer react to life's storms, you believe you've reached inner peace. But stillness born from suppression isn't serenity, it's stagnation. Real peace isn't the absence of pain, it's the presence of understanding. When you face your anger, grief, and fear without judgment, they transform into wisdom. Each emotion carries information, and when acknowledged, they point directly toward freedom. Avoid them, and you only loop back into the same experiences, wondering why you still feel stuck after so many teachings. True spirituality doesn't bypass the human experience, it embraces it fully. To heal is to see divinity even in discomfort, to sit with pain until it reveals its lesson. That's not entertaining, it's humbling, raw, and deeply real. The teachings that truly liberate you are not the ones that make you feel good immediately. They are the ones that challenge you to see where you've been dishonest with yourself. And when you finally stop using spirituality as a shield, you discover that what you've been running from was never darkness at all. It was light waiting to be recognized. There's another layer to this illusion, one most seekers never notice. As spirituality moved online, it became performative. Teachers turned into influencers, and wisdom became content. You start following voices you admire, watching their every post, their every insight. Slowly, a silent dependency forms. You begin to measure your growth by their words. You wait for their next upload to feel inspired again. And without realizing, your inner compass fades beneath their authority. This creates what psychologists call a parasocial bond, a one-sided relationship where you feel intimately connected to someone who doesn't know you exist. It feels safe, even sacred, but it's still dependency, dressed as devotion. You start confusing inspiration with instruction. When they speak, you listen as if truth itself were speaking through them. But every time you elevate another human above your own inner wisdom, you move further from the source within. Some teachers are genuine, others exploit that reverence. The online spiritual world has no gatekeepers, no safeguards. Charisma replaces integrity, and blind faith becomes currency. When you hand over your discernment, you invite illusion to lead. You may find yourself drawn into promises of instant awakening, expensive retreats, or energy activations that deliver temporary highs, but no lasting transformation. Even when intentions are pure, over-reliance on external voices keeps you trapped in second-hand spirituality. Your intuition atrophies. You forget how to listen to yourself. You think you need constant guidance, when in truth, your own awareness is the greatest teacher of all. Every genuine master points you back to that. As the Buddha said, "Be a lamp unto yourself." True teachers do not create followers, they awaken mirrors. The goal is not to depend on them forever, but to recognize the same divine intelligence within you. Once you see that, every teaching becomes confirmation, not instruction. So how do you return to truth in a world drowning in teachings? You embody it. After realizing that bypassing and consumption only deepen the illusion, a quiet question begins to form within you. What now? You've heard all the teachings, repeated the affirmations, and practiced stillness through screens, but nothing compares to the raw experience of living your truth. The mind wants to understand enlightenment, the soul wants to express it. Embodiment is the bridge between knowing and being. It's where philosophy dissolves into practice. When spirituality is no longer entertainment, it begins to move through you, not toward an audience, but toward alignment. The real teaching isn't hidden in another video or book. It reveals itself through how you breathe, speak, walk, and love when no one is watching. To embody truth means to bring awareness into every moment, not just the ones that look spiritual. It's easy to feel enlightened in meditation, but far more profound to remain conscious in conflict, traffic, or uncertainty. The world doesn't need more people talking about presence. It needs people living it. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you choose honesty over image, silence over noise, you anchor what was once theoretical into reality. Embodiment doesn't happen through grand gestures. It's born in small, consistent acts of awareness that turn the ordinary sacred again. This is also where the cycle of entertainment breaks, because embodiment cannot be performed. You can pretend to know truth, but you cannot pretend to be it. It shows in your energy, in how you treat others, in how deeply you listen. Spirituality, once embodied, stops being about appearing wise and becomes about becoming whole. It doesn't demand you abandon the world. It asks that you bring presence into it. The teacher, the book, the guru, they can point the way, but only your actions can confirm your understanding. When wisdom moves from your intellect into your nervous system, enlightenment stops being an idea and becomes your natural rhythm. Returning to embodiment doesn't mean rejecting teachings. It means digesting them. You take in what resonates, live it, and let the rest fall away. Through grounding practices, silence, nature, breath, or still observation, you create space for integration. Spiritual growth becomes less about collecting and more about refining, less about appearing elevated and more about being real. Truth, when lived, no longer entertains the ego. It liberates it from its own performance. In that space of simplicity and sincerity, enlightenment ceases to be something you seek and becomes what you are remembering to live again. You were never lost. You were only distracted. Enlightenment didn't disappear. It was buried beneath the noise of consumption. You mistook the path for the destination, the messenger for the message, the words for the word within you. But truth cannot be consumed. It must be remembered, embodied, lived. So step out of the stream of endless teachings and return to the still waters of your own awareness. Feel what you've avoided. Trust what you already know. Let silence teach you again. The moment you stop trying to find enlightenment is the moment you remember. You've never been separate from it.